Hey guys, it's me Rebecca. So I am here today to do my March wrap up as well discuss what I plan to read in April so far. So yeah, let's get started with the first book I was able to finish in March, which is Blacktop Wasteland by S.A. Cosby. And this is about once known as the best getaway driver east of the Mississippi, Beauregard Bug Montage has never stopped looking over his shoulder. He knows that no matter how long he has been out of the life, no one ever gets out completely. Now Bug is an honest mechanic, a loving husband, and a hard-working dad. But when his carefully built new life begins to crumble, and a former associate comes calling with a can't-miss jewelry store heist, Bug feels he has no choice but to get back in the driver's seat. Haunted by the ghost of who he used to be and the father who disappeared when he needed him most, Bug must find a way to navigate this blacktop wasteland, or die trying. And with this, we see how Bug is split, I guess, in two different directions. How there's one side of him who wants to be good and do things right, live a straight-laced life where he is content with his family, work, and hobbies, and that people typically have. But then there's also his old life and how easy it is for him to step back into those shoes, and they're shoes that he doesn't have a choice but to wear if it means keeping his business and taking care of his loved ones. And we see how he tries to keep these two sides of him separate and not fails, and it costs him the people he loves. And he has more at risk now than he did previously, which I found interesting, and we see how this job becomes more than it is, and it leads to a bigger mess he has to deal with, as it wasn't just a simple jewelry heist. It was someone who was using the store as a fund to deal drugs, and now there are consequences to pay. And we see Bug as he has to deal with those consequences, and how along the way he doesn't trust his associates, I guess, the people who are in this with him. And we see how he is betrayed, and how because of this job it put his family at risk, and he almost lost his family, and now he kind of has to save them and protect them from more danger. And we see at the end how he can't simply fully give up this life because it gives him this high, I guess, like driving fast and recklessly, as we see. And overall, I like this, and I gave it 4 stars. And the next book I finished in March was The Stone Witch of Florence by Anne Washi. And this is about 1348. Ginevra di Gasparo has a gift. By harnessing the hidden power of gemstones, she can heal the sick. But when word spread of her unusual abilities, she was condemned as a witch and banished. Now, as the Black Plague is ravaging Italy, the same man who expelled Ginevra are begging for her return, and Ginevra obliges, assuming the city's leaders are finally ready to accept her unorthodox curse amid a pandemic. But upon arrival, she is tasked with a much different mission. She must use her collection of jewels to track down a ruthless thief who is ransacking Florence's churches for priceless relics, the city's only hope for protection. If she succeeds, she'll be a recognized physician and never accused of witchcraft again. But as her investigation progresses, Ginevra discovers she's merely a pawn in a much larger scheme than the one she's been hired to solve. And the dangerous man behind this conspiracy won't think twice about killing a stone witch to get what they want. And with this, we did see Ginevra's life story, how she initially is from a different town to where she is to Florence, Genoa, and we see Ginevra as a young woman in flashbacks working on discovering her talent and learning how to use it. And we see how she wants to help people by using it, and she just can't understand why she's not allowed to, why people are afraid of things not related to the way God does things, how she rebels in this way and causes herself trouble. And we see the story behind her exile and her relationship with this boy in Florence. And that relationship just felt rushed to me personally, and it didn't really allow me to feel anything for her or to care about her relationships at all, or really just to know how she felt about this person, because his letter is what causes her to decide to come back to Florence, even though it was forged as he had died because of the Black Plague. And yeah, those flashbacks just felt like a recount of events. We just didn't really see much of what was going through her head, and we see how she does investigate, but I don't know, it just felt a bit easy and fast and full of information she should have been given at the start but wasn't. And how she has to rely on others. Like, I did like her friendship with, oh my word, I forgot. It's been a while since I would speak in my memory sucks, with Lucia, who is also someone who is a plague victim, who Ginevra helped, and how Lucia helps Ginevra. Like, we see that, and I did like that, but it just felt like Lucia was really doing a lot of the investigation and learning of things that, again, Ginevra should have been told at the beginning. And we do have this antagonist that it does seem to have come out of nowhere, and I don't know, I would have liked to have seen more of them, because with this antagonist, we did get a hint that there's someone close to the head of the city, and they're in debt, and they need money for debt collectors, and that's really it. I mean, it just felt like it was almost a throwaway comment, the way it's mentioned. Like, it's like, because of the plague, his business was affected. Like, it is, I don't know, I would have liked to have seen more of him in present day, and because in present day, not present day, in the past timeline, he seemed not to really have anything for Ginevra. Like, he was the uncle of her boyfriend, and her boyfriend begged him to save her, and that's really it. We just don't see how he felt about her. Like, I don't know, I just felt like she was just she was a pawn in this chess game that he had no feelings for, but I don't know. Overall, I gave this 3 stars. Like, I just didn't feel anything for it personally. And the next book I read in March was Labyrinth by Kate Moss. And this is in July 2005 in the Pyrenees Mountains near Carcassonne. Alice, a volunteer at an archaeological dig, stumbles into a cave and makes a startling discovery. 2 crumbling skeletons, strange writings on the walls, and the pattern of a labyrinth. 800 years earlier, on the eve of a brutal crusade that will rip apart southern France, a young woman named Alice is given a ring in a mysterious book for safekeeping by her father. The book, he says, contains the secret of the true Grail, and the ring, inscribed with a labyrinth, will identify a guardian of the Grail. Now, as crusading armies gather outside the city walls of Carcassonne, it will take a tremendous sacrifice to keep the secret of the labyrinth safe. And with this one, we do see how people seem to be playing similar roles in the past as they did in the present or during the present, having intentions for doing and the book. And I also liked how Alice in present day, she's affected by being in a place and having memories. It almost felt like it was a past life sort of thing, but it wasn't in the end. It was more of an ancestral connection, and it just seemed like it would happen around the moment she would have memories she didn't know what to do with. And there are like two groups of people after the books, because it's not just one book. It's like a book of numbers, a book of words, and a book of something science related. I'm blinking out on that one specifically. And one group wants these books for selfish reasons to gain something, while the other wants to protect these books and prevent these people from doing the selfish thing. And we see how the two groups face up against one another and try to prevent one another from gaining these books. And overall, I just had a fun time with this, and I gave it 4 stars. And the next book I finished in March was The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gorig. And this is about Androboda's story begins where most witches' tales end, with a burning. A punishment from Odin for refusing to provide him with knowledge of the future. The fire leaves Androboda injured and powerless, and she flees to the furthest reaches of a remote forest. There she is found by a man who reveals himself to be Loki, and her initial distrust of him transforms into a deep and abiding love. Their union produces 3 unusual children, each with a secret destiny, who Androboda is keen to raise at the edge of the world, safely hidden from Odin's all-seeing eye. But as Androboda slowly recovers her prophetic powers, she learns that her blissful life and possibly all of existence is in danger. With help from the fierce huntress Skadi, with whom she shares a growing bond, Androboda must choose whether she'll accept the fate that she's foreseen for her beloved family, or wise to remark their future. The most ancient of tales, this novel forges a story of love, loss, and hope for the modern age. And with this one, we see how Loki got into her good graces by helping her after what the gods did to her, and being the first being really to show her kindness after what she went through, and how slowly she is coming out of the fog of love and having clarity on the fact he might be showing her only one of his faces when he has said he has many, and she's not seen all of his faces, only what he's showed her. And one thing I liked about this novel is, for some reason, Androboda, she doesn't remember her past before she was with Odin and the other gods. And she had these abilities that allowed her to survive the fire 3 times. That was interesting. And we see how she is afraid of Odin and going to where he wants her to go, and how she just wants to protect those she loves from harm, because Odin, he wants to see this prophecy on really how the world will end, how the gods will die. And when she does show him unwillingly, he doesn't really seem to be doing anything to stop it or prevent it. He just almost seemed to accept it. And overall, I did like this, and I gave it 4 stars. And the next book I finished in March was The Dry by Jane Harper. And this is about federal agent Aaron Folk hasn't been back to the place where he grew up in 20 years, not since he and his father were run out of town. And even when Folk gets word that his childhood best friend Luke is dead and his entire family murdered, Folk still isn't planning on going back. But then he gets a note. Luke lied, you lied, be at the funeral. And just like that, Folk is swept back into the secrets of the place and people he loved so long ago. When Folk returns for the funeral amid the worst drought in a century, long-buried mysteries resurfaced along with the lies that accompany them. and folk will discover anew what he's known all along. Sometimes you have to go back home in order to finally leave your past behind. And with this, I like the way we see the tension in this town due to the heat and the drought and people fearing the town and their livelihoods will fall apart, because this is a town that gets its living through agriculture from growing vegetables and selling them. And with this drought, they're not able to do that at all. And I also liked how people feel with folk coming back after what they thought his involvement in his friend's death was. And that death is what caused folk and his father to be driven out of town, as people were harassing them, and it was just getting quite dangerous for them to stay in town. And how people, this one, the case behind what happened with Luke and his wife and son to be an open and shut case, and for no questions or doubt to be casted, that it wasn't what they think, how they're just trying to survive, because the way people think it is that Luke, for some reason, killed his wife, killed his son, and then killed himself, and yet things don't look so simple at all. And we see how being back and dealing with people from his past might be clouding folks' judgment and wanting answers about what happened and wanting vengeance for tormenting him both now and then. And I did find that interesting, as he's not entirely clear-minded, like what happened in the past with their friend is on folks' mind, because he, I guess in the present timeline, is being harassed because people his age and those older than him remember what happened, and they don't feel comfortable with him being around. So yeah, overall I just had fun with this, and I gave it 4 stars. And the next book I finished in March was Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. I keep on saying Interview with a Vampire. So yeah, and this is about Here Are the Confessions of a Vampire, hypnotic, shocking, and chillingly erotic. This is a novel of mesmerizing beauty and astonishing force. A story of danger, flight, of love and loss, of suspense and resolution, and of the extraordinary power of the senses. Basically, this is the story of this vampire, Louis, recounting, I guess, his life story to this boy, as the boy is recording him on cassette tapes, I think it is. I could be wrong about that. And we just see the journey that Louis on after the death of his brother and him becoming a vampire and everything that happened afterwards, how he's living with this other vampire named Lestat, and the 2 adopt a daughter named Claudia, and how Claudia and Louis escape Lestat, go to France, and trouble finds them there. And with this one, I did like how Louis there's this debate, I guess, if he is good or not in terms of religion, if he is now damned or not, or the devil, because of the fact he's a vampire, despite him trying to do good and be good, and if he has fallen into the dark side unwillingly, because he tries to help this woman who had lost her brother because Lestat ate him. And the beginning of Louis' story is around the 1790s, so it was frowned upon for a woman to be in charge of a plantation. And yet, that's what Louis encourages her in order for her to save herself, save her life being, I guess. And he would only appear to her as like this ghost or a spiritual figure. And when she learns who he truly is, she thinks he's the devil because of the fact of what he is. And we see the different morals, I guess, Louis has compared to Lestat and Claudia, how they're okay drinking the blood from people and killing them, as they think that's like, it's simple, like that's what they're supposed to do, that's how they should survive. While Louis not okay with that, and he drinks the blood of animals instead, and how it seems like it relates to his belief that he is evil when he kills humans, as that is how he is and how others perceive it as otherwise. And we see how things had changed, how first the three of them were happy, and then Claudia, she had grown resentful towards Lestat, and she became curious about other vampires in the world, and she wanted to find them. And she is obviously resentful because of the fact she was extremely young when they changed her. She was like 5 years old. So she's forever in the body of a 5-year-old while her mind is changing and growing, and she hates that. And we see how Louis, he seems to feel guilt about this, and tries to not make it up to her, but tries to, I don't even know, live with it or continue on with it, because there's nothing he can really do. So overall, I enjoyed this quite a lot, and I gave it 4 stars. And the next book I finished in March was My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. And this is about high school sophomores Abby and Gretchen have been best friends since 4th grade. But after an evening of skinny dipping goes disastrous wrong, Gretchen begins to act different. She's moody, she's irritable, and bizarre incidents keep happening whenever she's nearby. Abby's investigation leads her to some startling discoveries, and by the time their story reaches its terrifying conclusion, the fate of Abby and Gretchen will be determined by a single question. Is their friendship power enough to stop the devil? And with this one, we do see the changes in Gretchen, and as she is being tormented by the devil, and when the devil eventually takes over her body, how initially she deteriorates, like she's not sleeping at all, she's not showering or changing her clothes, and she's pushing people away, and people are pushing her away. And she then suddenly starts glowing and becomes someone different, like someone who's more popular, but she's still a god-awful influence on people. And you see how her relationships with Abby, her parents, and other friends are affected, and how when Abby tries to get help for her, adults in her life let her down, and her friends go against her, leaving her to deal with this on her own. And we see how she has to rely on the one person who believes her, and when all else fails, like, and then she kind of relies on the power of their friendship and the power of everything that Gretchen loves and all that stuff. And you see how the devil tries to take her down because she's the only thing that still cares about Gretchen. And yeah. And with this, I didn't feel fully connected to the writing. I just didn't really feel like I was in this story. And the first half of this novel just left me so angry because of how badly Abby was let down by the adults in her life who didn't take her seriously or thought she was the bad influence in Gretchen's life. And second half I did like a bit more, but there's something about the writing that didn't really fully work for me. So yeah. And something else I did like was Gretchen and Abby, they're on 2 different levels of socio-economic stuff, and so is a lot of Abby's friends in Charleston, where this novel takes place. Like, Gretchen and all of their other friends, they are, I guess, they live in rich areas, they live in nice areas, they have good parents, not good parents, but their parents are like your stereotypical Americans who have white houses with wrapped around porches. They go to church and are extremely well off. While Abby, I would say, is more, I don't know, the way she's living is like, I guess, more of a realistic American. Like, their house isn't like, so nice, and it's not in a richer area of town, but yeah, so Abby is on a different level to Gretchen and others, and we see how that also affects her. And yeah, overall, because of how I felt with the writing, I did give this book 3 stars. And the last book I finished in March was Passing by Nella Larson. And this is about Claire Kendry is living on the edge, light-skinned, elegant, and ambitious. She is married to a racist white man unaware of her African-American heritage and has severed all ties to her past after deciding to pass as a white woman. Claire's childhood friend, Irene Whitfield, thus as light-skinned, has chosen to remain within the African-American community and is simultaneously allured and repelled by Claire's risky decision to engage in racial masquerade for personal and social gain. After frequenting African-American-centric gatherings together in Harlem, Claire's interest in Irene turns into a homoerotic longing for Irene's black identity, which she abandoned and can never embrace again. And she is forced to grapple with her decision to pass for white in a way that is both tragic and telling. I just find that the blurb, as you can probably tell by my facial expressions, and from this, I didn't really gather that, because this novel is told entirely from Irene's perspective, and we just see how Irene feels about this whole situation, about how Irene is really just focused on taking care of her family, ensuring the best for her husband and her sons, and she's almost keeping Claire at a distance because she is afraid for Claire, because her husband is extremely racist. Like, he hates black people, so she is worried for Claire and about Claire's daughter Marjorie. And we see how the two women, like, they just do what they think they need to do in order to survive life. And we also see the difference in how they feel about being mothers, because for Irene, being a mother, it just seems like it's everything to her, while for Claire, it's not. And we do see with motherhood, it's holding both of them back from embracing what they truly want. For Claire, it's about embracing her racial identity and being out, I guess, to her husband of that she is black, which if she was to tell him, it would lead to divorce. So there is her daughter on the line, and with Irene, she just wants what's best for her boys and protect them against all of the racism that's in the U.S. Like, she won't allow her husband to tell them of anything negative associated to their race, and he thinks she's naive because they will learn one day. Like, she still almost babies her children. I mean, she is a mother, so I don't know if that's just how it is. And we see Irene, how she both wants Claire out of her life because it is putting her and her family at risk, and she is worried that there might be something going on with Brian and Claire, Brian being Irene's husband. And you see all of that accumulate to Claire's husband finding out that Claire is black and being associating, I guess, with black people. Something that he hates because dislikes, because I think it wouldn't have mattered if she was just hanging out with black people. Like, it would have pissed him off, obviously, but the fact that she lied to him is also something else. So yeah, there's a lot of stick, and I personally just didn't feel the homoerotic like tension or anything. It just felt like Irene was almost judging Claire's decisions and not really like with them or agreeing with her decisions, but seeing why Claire has to do what she does. So yeah, overall I gave this 4 stars. Now, that is everything I read in March and what I plan to read in April so far. Everything else I read in April will be in my April wrap-up, but I don't know if this is the only book I'll be reading in April because, yeah, I don't know why my brain's like, I want to read this next. Like, but it is War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, translated by Richard Pelver and Lars Volkonsky. And as you can tell, probably, I'm struggling to hold this up because it is heavy. God knows what will happen to my wrist when I try to do this with all of the books I read in April stacked up. Yeah. I'm not even giving a synopsis to One Piece. You probably know what it's about. So yeah. So that is everything I read in March and what I plan to read in April so far. And yeah, that's it for this video. So if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below telling me what you've been reading recently. If you want to, please subscribe to this channel. And if you want to follow me on any social media, all those links are in the down bar below. I'll see you guys next time I post a video.